Hello and welcome to Diana's Makerspace. Now in the skirt project, as you can see, what I did is I pinned it because what we're going to do is we're going to add an elastic waistband inside here. And I hem the bottom. As you can see, I hem the bottom. Then what we'll do is when we get done, what we're going to do is we're going to sew up the sides only up to here as to where we had hemmed. We're going to sew up the sides only up to here as to where we had hemmed. So like that though. So let's begin doing this thing. Now the thing to remember though was when I started this, I looked at my sewing machine and I noticed my bobbin was low. So what I did is I added a fresh bobbin. So when you start this, it's always good to add to check your bobbin to make sure that your bobbin isn't low like that, because the worst thing is to change this in the middle of sewing like that though. You can do it. For me it's easy, but for others it might be a little difficult. So let's do the first stitch, back stitch. Now let's continue. Now notice as I approach the pins, I always make sure I take the pins out. And what I'm sewing is that I'm sewing at a length of 30 millimeters. Just a little bit at a time. And what I do is I use what thread I have on hand. So on the outside will be a blue thread, so like a fuchsia blue lining. I just went a little bit off my 30-degree mark, 30 centimeter mark. Now I'm just heading back. Now you notice I'm coming to another pin. So you always take that pin out. And now we just have to navigate back on track. Sometimes if you get off track, you can just do a little nudge to get it back on track. Another way is you can take tailor's chalk and you can write a line and sew on a line. Normally that's what I do, but today I didn't do the line. And I'm using Karen, my Singer M1000 mending machine, because sometimes I like the slower speed. And what I do is I hold the fabric in the back. You don't pull. You just hold it just to a line. And then notice as I'm doing is I'm just unraveling it out a little bit by little, so it doesn't pull in the back of the machine. What many people are surprised to realize that there are many people who are transgender who actually know how to sew, and that's part of the way how they make money during their transition through hobbies like this. Because a lot of people like ask them to mend things or alter things. I've done that for friends too. Pants, dresses, even tops. And also for me, it's sometimes better to create things rather than just coding, right? Writing a program or something else, because sometimes programs get stolen, someone takes your credit, but this way, this is nice. Everyone sees it and everyone can enjoy it. So it's a nice way to be able to create things other than just programming. But we do have to work on programming so that people who do submit to open source or do make programs on the side, that they don't get stolen from them or stolen by the white glove technique. Because I've had 2 programs stolen by the white glove technique. What the white glove technique is, someone poses as your friend. They say, "Oh, can I have a demo?" And they say, "Well, I'm your friend. You don't have to give me an unprotected demo. I'm your friend." And what happens basically, then someone from a company approaches them and they say, "Well, is your friendship, is money more important or your friendship?" And some of these people choose money over friendship. So And yet they claim they go to church every day. But to me, it's basically I value people. So, and I've learned to live with what's happened. So basically, and that's what you always have to do. Nice in sewing though, it's something that's very nice for me, and also my parents taught me because they're very enlightened, and I'm glad I took it up again during COVID. Now as you can see, now when we go over a seam, it's always important to go completely over the seam. Don't stop in the middle. It's like they say, you don't. When you're crossing, like the old days, when you're crossing a stream with a horse and wagon, you don't stop in midstream. For those of us that watch MeTV and Delightful Men and other stuff. Now what I'm doing is I'm staying on the 30 millimeter mark. The reason why I'm doing this is so I can have a wide waistband, like that though. And I'm just holding it and so I make sure that I'm aligned on the 30 millimeter mark. Now, things when you come to your pins, make sure you don't go too close to your pins because you can break a needle, and that can be rather hazardous. And if you do go up, just gently rotate it like I did, and just basically get back on track. Because you're using a big piece of fabric, sometimes it's a little bit hard to stand. You have to take a look. It's better to take it step by step. And remember, this isn't a race. Even though Karen can go much faster, I'm only running Karen at about 20 or 30 miles an hour compared to a 95 miles an hour that you can run. Laura's like the Ferrari. She has the big engine. She can go up to 160. But a lot of people really don't. They don't recommend that you do that though, because basically. Sewing is about quality. It's not about how fast you do it, and it's about the quality and the joy that you get in doing it. And for many of us who worked on the deadlines, it's nice not to be able to worry about looking at a clock like that. Though it's nice to not have to worry about looking at a clock like that. Now. Now, you see, as what happens when I do get off the line, I do tilt it a little bit to get back on line. And what happens, so now you see what happens now as we come to another pin. This is where it's good. And then also at this point, sometimes it's good just to flatten it out a little bit just to see where you are. Flatten it out again. There we go. Now, you notice basically I just do a little bit of time. You can do it all the way through. But for me, basically, I like you get a better quality if you do it a little bit at a time. And also what you do basically is what I do when I get near the end, I take the last pin out. And just basically go through and gently fold it. And also I'm holding it with my fingers, but I'm holding it far away from the needle. You shouldn't put your fingers near the needle. I know on some fashion TV shows you see designers putting it very close to the needle. And it's not a good idea because you can hurt yourself. And one show they actually did. So always keep your fingers away from the needle. Keep at least 2 inches to an inch and a half away from the needle, or basically 5 centimeters to 8 centimeters away from the needle. Because even though now we do a back stitch, now we do a forward stitch. And let's take it out. And let's take a look let's see how it looks here. Now as you can see, basically a nice little line like this though. pretty consistent all the way through. Now the other thing to do is always, what I do is like to do is it's always better to snip your ends. So let's do that. Let's snip our ends. And let's see. There's one more. Now the next step is basically, now that we have this unpinned, is now what we're going to pin it. We're going to pin it long sides together. So, but when we pin it, like I said, we're not gonna pin it. We're not gonna pin it all the way up. We're not gonna pin it all the way up. We're gonna only pin it up to here. Then we're gonna sew the rest. So what happens is, what we'll do is basically, you can use clasp as you will. Also, I ordered a special tool from Amazon, a magnetic tool that goes on the other side of the machine like that, though. Now, when you put your pins in, always try to put your pins so that they're pointing out away from the needle or straight. So now, and what happens, just do little segments at a time, because that way you'll have it. Now, some people put the pins in horizontally. I put it in vertically. I put in horizontally because I'm left-handed. Because if you put in vertically, as many people have known, people who are left-handers, we have a little trouble just because due to handedness, like that though. So as you can see, I'm doing a little bit at a time, like that though. So now what happens, let me show you. We have this pinned. Now, what we're going to do is, now when you do this type of stuff, it's always good to have a clean area when you do this. So basically, like this, I keep an area where I keep my shears. And you always want to keep things away from the main work area, even though like that, as you work. Now, what we're going to do different now, because this fabric is slightly woven, we're going to set the singer over to a zigzag stitch, which is like a serger stitch, because basically what happens, this will serge the fabric like this, so that we have a thing. And what we're going to go down to is, we're going to go down to about 20 millimeter seam. So now again, it's good to have it aligned. Make sure your threads are in the back, and let's begin. Back stitch and forward stitch. Now this time what I did is I put the pins in further enough so that I don't have to take them out as I go by. Because they'll hold the fabric in. And again, I'm doing a 20 millimeter inseam. So 20 millimeters is 2 centimeters. So about 3/4 of an inch, 3/4 of an inch, 3/4 of an inch a seam. Normally you're supposed to do 5/8, but today I'm working metric, so 20 millimeters, which is about 3/4 of an inch. For those of us who use English measurements, which I do, but today I'm using metric measurements. Because my machine is set on metric measurements. Now if you do get offline, you can just gently move it. And remember, since I'm doing a zigzag stitch, just do a little bit at a time. This isn't a lace. No, we're not lacing. And always, and I notice I put the pins outside, so basically I can go through. The other reason why I'm doing 3/4 of a seam is because with the frayed ends, I can take a pinking shears and then cut off the frayed ends. Now basically just going back again, getting back online. And also, the reason I'm doing 3/4 is because if you do have frayed ends, it prevents the frayed ends from getting stuck in the machine, like that though. So you're pretty good at that, like that though. So, whoops, just a minute. Just got sidetracked a minute here. Now, what happens, my pins are here and my needle is here. So you can see this, but it still holds the fabric in. And I have it horizontal because I'm left-handed. So it makes it easier for me to pull the pins in than to put it in vertically. Horizontally works for as long as you do small segments like I do. Now, as we're coming down, what happens on one of the pins, we have an overhang. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this overhang like this. Just put this pin inside here. Take this. Take that. Now we're going to take. Now, like overhang is like that. You just sew completely over. Keep going. Get it started. Just hold it down. And now what happens when a little bit more. Back stitch. Now we can take it out. And let's take the pins out. And one thing that I did do, I just noticed, is that basically one section is not aligned properly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that part of the stitch out and just stitch over that. So, and that happens. So basically, as you can see right here, so what we'll do is we'll just get my, now this is where you need a thread ripper. And also I use a little bag. So we'll take a thread ripper and you put this on here. And then what you can do is basically, there's a few ways how to do it. Since it's a zigzag stitch, what you can just do is you can just go in for a little bit. Or then the way to do it is just basically first part is always to get the first part started. And once you get the first part started, then it's very easy to take it and undo it. And I see what happens. We're almost there. Just going to undo a little bit more. Okay, now what happens? We've undone a little bit more, but I'm just going to do a little bit more, so just to get so we have a safe distance. And sometimes misalignment happens because not everyone is perfect like that, so misalignment can happen. So what we're going to do then is we'll take this one part, we'll put the thread ripper down, take this one part here, and just take one pin to make sure that we are aligned properly. And now, also what we're going to do is we're going to do a little thing where we're still going to pleat this over. So what happens is actually what we're going to do is going to take a pin and we're going to pleat it over so that when we sew, we're actually sewing over a pleat. So what happens, put it down. Now what happens, we did a 20 millimeter, and always go a little bit before so that you have enough room. So let's do it. Now what happens is we have aligned the edges, and let me show you when we get done with that. Now I'm wearing a pin cushion because some people wear a magnetic one, others, but always wear something so basically you don't have pins lying around. And for me, I'm diabetic, so I have to make sure that I don't step on pins because of my diabetes like that. So it's like that. Even when I work with electronics too, like that as well. And let's cut this off. Now, when we look at it, you can see basically we have the seams sort of lined up here, and basically what we're going to do is basically when we put the elastic in, then the elastic goes up to here, and you can see it's sewed up to here. So when we look at the skirt, it's about 24-inch skirt. And now we just have some other threads to cut. And I'm going to leave this extra fabric in because I always like to leave extra fabric just in case if I change my mind in the future. So now this is a good time to pause the video and I'll show you the next step. Now for this next step, we only have this much elastic or this much elastic. Notice that's not enough to go around my waist. So what we're going to do, we have two swatches of fabric that are about this size. So if we take 4 of them together, they'll be able to go around my waist. So how do we do that? Well, first thing we do is we have to cut them in half. And what I like to do is basically just pin it. And what happens is you want to pin it so you get the edges as close as you can together, so you get a nice equal size cut. And also it's good to make the band a little bit wider than you wish to make it, just so you have a little bit extra to work with. And notice I'm just pinning small segments at a time. Now, oops, now where did I put it? Oh. Now, next step is to use our shears. I have Guggenheim shears, which I'm very much like. So what we're going to do is we're going to take one end, like this, and watch what happens as you do this. Take one end, and as you do it, hold it, pull, pull, and pull. And you can see we cut a piece. Now what happens, it's a little bit weird, a lopsided, so let's just even this out a little bit. And this is again because I'm working on a small table. If you work on a bigger table, you can do better work. You can see we got just a little bit of flat pieces, but right now that's not the main thing. We'll take care of that a little bit later. Now we need to make the second part. And let's just get some of these on this out. There we go. Get some of this other stuff out. And what I always do is I always vacuum afterwards when I'm done. So now we got half the band ready. Now I'll make the other half. So now we got one band. Now we'll make the other band. And this time what I'll show you what happens if you do it where you, instead of trying to push the scissors through, where you just cut the scissors through. I'll show you another way. That's another way how you could do it too. Let me just get this all up and aligned. Notice I'm checking both ends as I'm doing this. And one thing I'm waiting for the last step is I'm waiting for a pleating tool. I'm having a pleating tool that I ordered from Amazon coming in, so that should be coming in on Monday, and I can show you when that comes in on Monday how we do the last part. Now again, what we're going to do is we're going to take this. Now notice this is a lean table, so now we do is just take it, just a nice simple cut, and always grab it so far. So you do a nice alignment cut. And always put your tools back as to where they are. Now you notice this one's a little bit bigger than the other one. So what are we going to do? So basically we're going to align it to the other one. Now the easiest way, we could just sort of try to cut analog wise and just keep cutting and sort of guessing. But what we're going to do is we're going to get some tailor's chalk. So let's get some tailor's chalk. And this is tailor's chalk. And what I do is basically just get some tailor's chalk. Looks like a little rectangle. To some, it actually looks like a guitar pick. Now what you do is just take it down and remember, tailor's chalk always washes out. So don't worry about making a mark that'll show. Tailor's chalk always washes out. And what I like to do is I like to just go, twice to make sure and make a nice solid line. Now we just move this up a little bit more. Okay, there's the tailor's chalk. Now the next step, what we do is what I like to do is I like to pin all three layers together. So what happens on one layer, I have a pin underneath. So let's just take that pin out. Well, what we could do, let's do it this way. Let's take this. Let's take the, now we got the pins in. Let's keep the pins in. So as you can see, there's this with the tailor's chalk. So now what we're going to do is we'll take the shears, and again we'll cut along the line. So let's cut along the line. And remember, tailor's chalk washes out in the wash, so don't worry about making a big mark that you, a big line. It'll wash out in the wash. And that's also why you sear or zigzag, because when you do wash fabric, if you don't sear or zigzag and you wash woven fabric, when you put in the wash, some parts of it will become unraveled. Now this fabric is pre-washed, but what happens is when I do get done, I will wash it. And remember, if you're going to iron something, don't iron something unless it's really clean, because if you have any spots, you're going to iron the spots into it. You're going to fix the stain. You're going to chemically fix the stain. So don't, make sure, if you do iron, make sure something is very clean. Like that though. Now, next step, what we're going to do, we're going to put these two edges together. So we're going to put one pin in. Let's see, do it just a little bit further downward, like that. So we put one pin in. Now we're going to take the other pins out. Oops, come on. There we go. Sometimes it just takes a while to find out which section of the pin cushion the pins want to go into. Now, okay, now that we have this one pin in, we're going to do a zigzag stitch. So, and this time we're going to use again a 20 millimeter seam, or basically about a 3/4 inch seam. Well, it's actually 0.8 inch, but I'll say 3/4. If you're using an English ruler. Back stitch, forward stitch. Now notice I have my finger doing just that alignment, but notice I'm following my rule, staying away. They don't put it too close to the needle. Now back stitch. Now you might ask, why do I do a zigzag stitch on cotton? Because basically, some cottons will fray at the end, and what happens again? The Zenith M1000 has different zigzag stitches that act as a serger. One looks like two mounds with dotted lines. Another one looks like two mounds where you have where you have flat land between them. That's a traditional serging stitch. And what happens? Another one has a longer set of mountains and a shorter set of mountains. Um, Now in the Singer 4452, they actually do have a serging stitch. What you do, you can put it on S1 or S2, and then when you get to the buttonhole, to the left of the buttonhole, you'll see these patterns, and then what happens? You can set your sewing width, and some people set it to 5, so that way basically when it does, it goes do 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 do, and that surges the fabric. If you do, the only thing is what happens, the Singer 4452 and Singer 1000 doesn't have a cutting circuit, so you have to, after you serge, you have to manually cut. But basically for me right now, on my budget, this allows me to catch up on other things. So now, when you look at this, you can see what the seam looks like. You can see what the seam looks like on the other side. Some people will note that basically it's a little bit off, but this is going to be on the inside. But whenever I do things for the first time, I always make mistakes. So basically, that's why I believe in the process of revision. You keep going and going and going until eventually. And what happens is this is being made without a pattern. This is being made without a pattern. Now again, what we're going to do the same thing. Good side to good side. We're gonna put a pin in that's a little bit downstream, like this. Whoops, I just put this in a little bit more, like that. Now what we do is we put this in the Singer. Again, we're going to do a 20 millimeter, 0.8 inches or 3/4 of an inch inseam. Now back stitch. Now forward stitch. Forward stitch again. Now what happens, you turn the wheel towards you to loosen up the thread, and you'll hear like a click, and that's how you can tell that because the Singer for many people is for those of us in computer science, the Singer is actually like a computer. It's actually a mechanical computer. It has a cycle, just like the way a processor has a cycle: fetch, decode, process, and store. The Singer works on the same way. It has a 4-cycle mechanism. So basically, when you do it, it's very much like a mechanical computer. And sometimes when machines do have issues or hiccups, that's how you solve it. Now, when you look, you can see there's a seam. Now, this one, let's take a look at this. Notice. Now the next part, what we're going to do is we're going to do exactly what we did in the first part. We're gonna take the fabric that we made, and notice, and we're gonna put the two fabrics together. So the seam on one side faces and the seam on the other side faces. So again, let's do this. Let's get this a little bit aligned. You can see there's a little bit of a gap, but we'll take care of that next. So I'll show you how to take care of that next. Now again, you can see we have some frayed edges here. Before you sew, it's better if it's close to the, just get rid of these frayed edges, because what happens, they can get in your wheel well, and basically cause some difficulty. So just snip them off. Oops. And what happens when you get static, sometimes like my apartment, I have a little bit of static. Just gently pull it back. Now again, we're going to do a 20 millimeter seam allowance. Doing metric today. Forward stitch. And pull the threads back. Backward stitch. And forward stitch. Whoops. And we just got a little bit of puckling. Let's see if we can, whoops, just get that out of there, that puckling. Now what happens is we turn the handle one more time to have it click, so that the thread comes out. And let's see. And we snip our threads. Now, as you notice, I'm left-handed, so basically, to some, this may seem a little bit different from what you're used to seeing. And what happens is I'm from a family of left-handers. My parents, my sister, my grandparents, on both sides of the family, are all left-handers. And my parents worked hard when I was in school to fight from being converted over to a right-hander. But I was converted to play sports right-handed, so to this day I know how to play sports both left-handed, right-handed. And when I do golf, I actually have a left-handed 7-iron that I carry just in case I get stuck behind a tree. I can hit it. Now let's take a look at it. Now take a look at our seam. Look how big this is. Now let me show you what we're going to do. Let me step back a little bit. And I gotta get the chalk again. Now what you want to do is see, like Gertie says, do a teapot to find your natural waist. Do a teapot. Now, see how much extra fabric there is here? Like that though? So, what we're going to do is just a minute, a little bit more. See, that's just a minute. So, okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take the tailor's chalk. We're going to measure that. And then what we're going to do, this is where it fits snug on my waist. Then we're going to go about 3 inches back, or about 8 centimeters back. This is where we're going to attach the elastic. But let's go about 10. Let's go about 10. Okay, so there we go. So what we did was we took 3 measurements, where my natural waist was, the first thing for the elastic, and the second part of that. What we're going to do is we're going to cut where the second part of the elastic is. So what happens, we're going to take our shears, cut, whoops, just a little bit of a loose end. And you notice we have some fabric left over for something else later, which we can use. But now let's just go through and test to make sure that this is basically where it should be. Well, let's see. It's the key. I think it's the other one. This is why you test. Yep, there you go. See. So what happens right there? Now, what we're going to do is going to take this little piece of elastic. Now, the way we're going to put it is, let me just think now. Okay, we're going to put the right side to the long side. Okay. And again, we're going to use a pin to set it in. And what we're going to do is we're going to do a zigzag stitch. So what you do is you take it, and you just have to make sure that the needle, pull your thread a little bit so oops, these up just a little bit more. And always have the needle on the, and again we're going to use a 20 millimeter seam. Always have your needle on the foot, on this. So first we'll do the first stitch. Back stitch. Now what happens is we have a little bit of a pucker. So what happens is basically we just take this and, oops, come on. And this can happen. So basically what happens is now that you got the first stitch set up, it's very easy to continue onward because you just need the first stitch as an alignment. So now what happens, let's continue on. Because what happens if your fabric isn't moving, you got a pucker. And basically try not to, don't worry about forcing it like that though. Just move on and forward, as my dad would say, like that though. Let's see, all right. And also we had this pin very close like that though, so let's take this pin out a little bit. There we go. Now let's do this again. And whoops. Now we can take it out. And you can see we have this is where we had the pucker. Now you can see this big one. This is where it puckered. What happens is it got stuck in the wheel while I was pouring. That's why I had to pull it out and then basically do it again. But when we did it again, then you can see how it went all the way through. And you can see basically, now you may wonder, you say, well, why are you showing me your mistakes? Because basically, people do make mistakes. We're not perfect. And I've had many professors, sometimes professors from other parts of the world, they were taught they had to be perfect all the time. Some foreign professors they had taught, and what happens, they never want. And what happens in engineering, you learn from failure, you learn from mistakes. The same thing in fashion, you learn from failure, you learn from mistakes. Now, the next step, what we're going to do. Well, I actually did this in reverse, but well, let's just keep on with the same theme, like that. Though, let's keep on with the same theme, because what happens is basically, I can cut these edges off, so we'll keep on with the same theme like that though. So what we're going to do is we're going to take it, let's see, and again you notice we have a frayed edge on here. That's part of the reason why sometimes you get puckering, so cut that frayed edge guy out. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do the same thing again on this end. Now, for me, I call this an experimental project because I'm making this without pattern, and I'm trying to learn how to do different techniques and stuff. So basically, my goal is not perfection, but basically to test is a feasibility of a concept, is to test the feasibility of a concept. So that's what I'm doing here today. But what happens, this is going to be on the inside, so when you wear it, no one's going to notice it on the inside when you wear it like that, though. So, like that, though. And again, we're going to do a 20 mil seam. Whoops, I got to move this strip. That's what happened last time. I didn't move this far enough downstream. So let's do it this way. Let's move far enough downstream. Let's do a 20 millimeter seam. There we go. Okay. A forward stitch. Pull the threads back. Back stitch. Forward stitch. Notice just a little bit at a time. And what I'm doing is I'm using supplies that I have lying around. So I'm recycling supplies I have lying around like that, though. So now you may say, well, you know, you shouldn't have finished that up right away because you have to put it through the skirt. That's true. But the reason why I did this is I wanted to show you what it looks like. So you can see a little belt. Now let me go. Let's see. Let's put this on like this. So let's take this and put this on. Keep slide it up a little bit. The reason why we're putting it on is basically just to make sure that there is enough attention so that when we wear the skirt, it's not going to fall off. And for me, as you can see, that this is the tension that I like. It has plenty of tension. Now, what the next step, what we're going to do is, because we sewed this together prematurely, we're going to just thread this through the skirt. Before we do that, I have to do one other thing. I'll return in just a moment. And what I brought with me is some duct tape, which I'll show you, which we'll be using in just a few moments. So for this next part, what we're going to do is where we have this seam, we're going to undo this seam as it stands here. Just going to undo it. Take the seam ripper and just undo it. And what I'm trying to do is just take the seam out, but not take out the fabric. And again, the first few start is just a little bit, just takes a little effort. Get the first, there we go, now it's starting to get there. Take it out. You notice as you take it out, you can see where to take it out. It becomes a very cooperative operation at process as you do this. Almost there. You can see as you take one out, 3 come loose. And what you want to do is just keep doing it. There you go. One more. There you go. Now we have that. Now what we're going to do is we're going to pleat this all the way through the skirt. So I'll show you how to, and this will end this segment for today because basically I can't do anything else until I get my pleating tool from Amazon to come in. So how are we going to pleat this? Well, easiest way. So one way you can always try to pull this in, but here's a way I found that's a little bit easier. We're going to take duct tape. We're going to take a ballpoint pen, and again, as people have always mentioned, you have 2 pairs of scissors: that fabric scissors, and these are paper and tape scissors. So what you do is you take the tape, put the duct tape over one end, put this, whoops, put this over a pen, like so. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take one end of the skirt, and we'll start inserting. And see, since you're using a pen, notice what I'm doing now. Since I'm using a pen, you just push it through, and what happens? You can just keep pushing. Now again, since I'm left-handed, I do things a little bit differently. So we'll keep pushing it through. See, push, push, and then pull through. Again, and pull through, and again, and pull through. And now you just notice how I'm just doing it this way, just sort of try to push as much fabric through as I can. And then what happens is basically what happens sometimes if there are gaps, you just loosen the gaps up a little bit on the inside. Like that though, just a little bit. There we go. And again, once you get it started, it's quite easy to do. Just have to grab, pull it down, and you grab one end, There you go. And then you can see how it's coming out on the other end here, like that though. So now we just keep on doing, keep on going. Just a little more of a ways to go. Okay. So now just grab the bottom, pull. Grab the bottom, pull. And now what you can see, we got it all cinched through there like that though. We got one end, we got the other end now. Like that though. So now you can see it's cinched all the way through there like that though. Like that. It looks a little small, but it'll come out. And the last part, what we do is take this off. And we reconnect the seam. So we take it this way. Now when you look, you'll see basically there's a little bit of overhang. I'll show you what I'm going to do after that once we reconnect the seam. But always remember, keep your tools at a safe distance away like that also when you're working. Okay, so now we're going to, since we have a lot of thread here, we're just going to go down a little bit more. Whoops, let's see, just do a little static. Let's go down a little bit more like that though. And whoops it. Now you got me again, parallelism and straightness. Like that. So parallelism and straightness. Let's just go this way a little bit. Okay. Pull threads back. Forward stitch. Backward stitch. Now what happens, you just gotta make sure it doesn't pucker. Now the next part, what we're going to do is we're going to take all this that we took, and we're going to basically pull this all the way over. So I'm going to go like this, and grab it so we can pull it all the way over like this. So grab it. So we can pull it all the way over like that though. So then move it over. And see, you see what I'm doing? You take this, move it over, 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 move it over. And what happens now basically, now what happens is now we have it where basically, and now this last part basically we just have to take where the fabric is, and then what we'll do is we'll fold it over so that it fits inside the casing. And we'll do the same thing over here. And that's this. And the hard part is always just getting this thing started, because what happens is you're trying to start. So this is where basically where it helps to have other tools to help you do this. I'm starting to get it started. Starting to get inside there. And it's almost there. And notice what I'm doing, just grabbing one end, grabbing another end, like that though. So, but the main principle, as you can see, it's set up. But also what happens so is the best, just discovered another way how to do this. Do this a little bit easier. Take this. There we go. And the other thing to do is just a minute, I'll return just a moment. Let's get the tweezers. Let's see where I put my tweezers. So I'll get my fingernail, can't get a tweezer, so basically we can come and finish this up. Let's see. Let's see, nail files, nail files. Let's see. Let's see if we take this out. There we go. Now we're getting it in. Over there, time like that though. And what happens? Let's pause for just a moment and let me see if I can find the tweezers. Well, welcome back. I took a little break, and what I had to do was I opened up this inseam, and just like I cinched it backwards, so now that I have the elastic right inside here, so like this, and you can see what it looks like. Like I said, this is an experimental skirt, so basically I was doing different things with it. And also I was using different tools that I had available to me to do this, including my toenail clipper tool, my nail file tools, and I use this device to push it through. Now let's see what the skirt looks like. Let's do a first fitting. Let's see. Let's switch this around. Again, like I said, this is an experimental skirt, so let me go off to the side and put it on. And let me know what you think. You can see it's a little bit above the knees, 24-inch. Overall, I'm pleased with this. And also there's a little bit of bounce, a little bit of elastic. So this is the first part of making a skirt from cotton fabric without a pattern. And what I learned from this is remember how I mentioned how when you sew the seams, you sew partially up, but when you sew the hem, you don't sew the hem complete. You leave about 5 inches, 12 centimeters on the hem so that you can cinch the elastic in, and then you can sew that in later if you wish. And that's what I'll learn when I make the next one. Well, this has been the Red Cotton Skirt Project. This is part 2. And let me know what you think. The best way is to reach me on Twitter, YouTube, Pinterest, or X as it's called now. So I'll talk with you soon. And if you wish a pattern how to do this, just leave a note in the comments, and I'll put a general pattern in. Well, I'll see you then.